South Brooklyn moved the way it always did in daylight, loud, impatient, pretending nothing ever truly went wrong. Traffic pressed close along the curb, horns flaring in short, irritated bursts. A fruit vendor argued with a customer over loose change. Somewhere above it all, a train rattled past on elevated tracks, metal screaming against metal. It was ordinary noise, the kind that dulled danger by burying it under routine. Rhea Calder stood at the corner with a paper cup of coffee she'd stopped tasting hours ago. Her shift had ended 43 minutes earlier. Not that it mattered. Time blurred after 16 hours on duty. Blood, alarms, clipped voices over radios, bodies that either made it or didn't. She hadn't gone home yet. She told herself she was waiting for the caffeine to kick in before walking the rest of the way. In truth, she was stalling, letting the city hold her upright a little longer. Her shoulders ached. Her hands smelled faintly of antiseptic, no matter how hard she scrubbed them. The muscles in her calves twitched with that familiar post-shift fatigue, the kind that came not from effort, but from restraint. She took a sip of coffee. It was cold. Across the street, a black sedan rolled into view and stopped too abruptly, nose dipping as if startled. For half a second, it idled there, engine coughing in a way Rhea felt more than heard. Then the driver's door stayed closed longer than it should have. Someone shouted 2 blocks away. It didn't register as danger at first, just another sound, another fragment of the city's endless static. The rear passenger door of the sedan opened. A woman stepped out and immediately faltered. She was tall, dressed too cleanly for the street, dark coat hanging open as if she'd forgotten to close it. Her movements were controlled but wrong, each step delayed by a fraction, like her body was waiting for instructions her mind hadn't finished giving. Rhea's eyes tracked her without conscious intent. Training did that, picked anomalies out of crowds, cataloged posture, gait, color. The woman made it 3 steps before her knees buckled. She hit the pavement hard. The sound cut through the noise like a dropped tray in a silent room. People noticed then. Heads turned. Someone cursed. A phone came out. No one moved closer. Rhea was already crossing the street. She didn't remember deciding to. Her feet moved before thought caught up, bag sliding off her shoulder as she dropped to her knees beside the fallen woman. Up close, the wrongness sharpened. The woman's skin was pale beneath olive undertones, lips just shy of blue. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. One hand clutched weakly at Rhea's sleeve, fingers trembling, not in panic, but in failing coordination. "Hey," Rhea said, voice steady, pitched low. "I'm here." The woman tried to focus on her. Dark eyes, glassy with pain, flickered once before rolling half shut. Rhea's fingers were already at her neck. Pulse, rapid, thready, shock. She swept her gaze down the body, checking for obvious trauma. No blood on the pavement, no broken angles. Internal, then. "Stay with me," Rhea said, more to anchor herself than the woman. She pressed 2 fingers beneath the jaw, tilting the head back just enough to open the airway. Breathing caught, then resumed, shallow but present. A siren wailed somewhere distant, not close enough. Rhea opened the woman's coat without hesitation. Beneath it, the fabric of her shirt was darkened, soaked through near the ribs. Not arterial spray, not surface. Her fingers came away slick and warm. Gunshot, not fresh, minutes old, maybe longer. Long enough for blood to pool where it shouldn't. Long enough for the body to start losing the fight. Rhea's jaw tightened. "Okay," she murmured. "Okay, I've got you." She applied pressure, firm and precise, bracing her weight to compensate for the lack of proper equipment. Around them, the crowd hovered at a distance, forming a loose, useless ring. "Someone call 911, Rhea said without looking up. "I already did," a voice replied, defensive. "Good. Too late, probably. But good." The woman on the ground stirred again, breath hitching as pain surged through her. Her hand tightened on Rhea's sleeve, grip surprisingly strong. "Don't," the woman whispered, or maybe it was "don't let," the rest swallowed by a gasp. Rhea leaned closer. "You're going to be fine," she said, because lying was sometimes part of the job. "Stay with me. Focus on my voice." The woman's eyes found hers then, sharp despite the haze, assessing even now. A flicker of something passed between them. Not fear, awareness. Footsteps thundered nearby, shouts, someone yelling orders. The sedan's engine sputtered once more and died completely. Rhea barely noticed. She stayed where she was when the first patrol car screeched to a halt, stayed when uniforms rushed in, when someone tried to pull her back. She rattled off vitals, mechanism of injury, estimated blood loss. Her voice didn't shake. By the time the ambulance arrived, the woman was barely conscious, but alive. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, her hand slipped from Rhea's sleeve, leaving a smear of blood across the fabric. Rhea stood slowly, legs stiff, hands red to the wrists. She watched the doors close, watched the ambulance pull away into traffic, siren cutting sharp through the afternoon. Only then did she realize her coffee had spilled, pooling dark on the sidewalk at her feet. She didn't know the woman's name, didn't know who she was, or why the street had gone strangely quiet as the ambulance disappeared, didn't know that cameras had glitched at just the wrong moment, or that people who had been watching would later swear they'd seen nothing at all. Rhea picked up her bag and kept walking. Behind her, the city swallowed the accident whole, and somewhere between the corner and the next block, a woman who was never meant to survive did. Nix Valenti woke to silence so complete it felt engineered. Not the absence of sound, there was always sound, but the careful kind. The kind that absorbed footsteps, muted doors, swallowed breath. The ceiling above her was white, seamless, unmarked by cracks or stains, too clean, too controlled. Her first conscious thought was pain. It sat deep in her torso, heavy and deliberate, radiating outward with every breath she took. The second thought followed immediately, sharper. I'm alive. Nix did not open her eyes right away. She tested herself first, cataloging sensation the way she had learned to do after her sister's death, methodically, without optimism. Fingers responded. Toes, slower but intact. Breathing hurt, which meant lungs were working. Pain was preferable to numbness. She opened her eyes. The room was private, high-end medical, not a hospital ward, no monitors screaming for attention. Machines hummed quietly, respectful of her rest. A drip fed into her arm. Her torso was wrapped tight beneath a gown, compression firm enough to remind her of the injury every time she inhaled. A figure stood near the far wall. He straightened the moment her eyes focused. She's awake, he said into a discreet mic at his collar. Nix turned her head a fraction. The movement sent a flare of pain through her side, but she didn't let it show. Weakness invited conclusions. Where? She began, then paused as her throat protested. She swallowed. Where am I? A secure facility, the man said. You're safe. Nix almost smiled. Who was driving? She asked instead. The man hesitated. That told her enough. Memory came back in fragments. The sedan, the sudden lurch, the sound, muffled, distant, but unmistakable once she allowed herself to name it. Gunfire, the driver swerving. Heat blooming in her side that hadn't registered as pain at first, just pressure, then air, pavement, faces blurring above her, hands, steady, unafraid. A woman's voice, not sharp, not pleading, controlled, close. Nix closed her eyes briefly, not from exhaustion, but from the clarity of the image. She remembered the way those hands had pressed into her, decisive, intimate in a way violence rarely was, not taking, not demanding, saving. How long? Nix asked. 6 hours, the man replied. You lost a dangerous amount of blood. Another few minutes. Enough, Nix said quietly. He stopped. She shifted her gaze back to him. Who pulled me off the street? The man's expression changed. Subtle. Discomfort threaded through professionalism. A paramedic, he said. Off duty. Nix waited. Name? Rhea Calder. The name settled into her mind with unexpected weight. Rhea Calder. Not a name that carried echoes. Not a name whispered with caution. Not a name that triggered fear or loyalty or obligation. Just a name. Plain. Solid. Find her, Nix said. We already have. Of course they did. She has no known affiliations, the man continued. No priors, lives alone, works night shifts, no immediate leverage points. Nix's fingers curled slightly against the sheet. No leverage. That was the problem. Witnesses? Nix asked. Unreliable, he said. Cameras malfunctioned in the immediate area. Statements are inconsistent. Nix exhaled slowly, pain flaring again beneath the bandages. The city had done what it always did, protected itself by pretending. Bring me everything, she said. Background, schedule, address. The man nodded and stepped out. Alone again, Nix stared at the ceiling. She had survived assassination attempts before. She had survived betrayals, power vacuums, the night her sister's body hit cold concrete and the world reshaped itself around loss. Survival was not new. Gratitude was. It sat in her chest uncomfortably, foreign as the pain. She had been raised on transactions, everything balanced, everything owed. Life, in her world, was not a gift. It was a ledger. Yet she owed Rhea Calder something she could not calculate. The door opened again. This time, it was Corvin Hale. He moved with the ease of someone who belonged anywhere he stood, smile warm enough to disarm, eyes sharp enough to miss nothing. He took in Nix's condition in a single glance. "You scared us," he said lightly. Nix turned her head toward him. "You failed me." Corvin's smile didn't falter. "You're alive. Because of a stranger." That gave him pause. "She refused compensation," Corvin added carefully, "when we reached out." Nix looked at him then, fully. "She refused," Nix repeated. "Yes, no hesitation, no negotiation. Interesting. Set up a meeting," Nix said. Corvin raised a brow. "With respect, that may not be advisable. Loose ends." "She's not a loose end," Nix said, voice calm but final. "She's a variable, and I don't like unknowns." Corvin inclined his head. "As you wish." When he left, Nix closed her eyes again. In the dark behind her lids, the memory returned. Blood on concrete, the city blurring, and a woman kneeling beside her without knowing who she was. Rhea Calder hadn't saved Nix Valenti. She'd saved a stranger. And for the first time in years, Nix found herself unsettled not by a threat, but by the absence of one. Rhea Calder did not like the address she was given. She stood across the street from the building for nearly a full minute before crossing, eyes lifting to take it in, not in awe, but assessment. Clean facade, discreet entrance, no signage. The kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. Power didn't announce itself. It waited. Her phone buzzed once in her pocket. No message, just confirmation that she was expected. Rhea exhaled and stepped inside. The lobby was quiet, staffed by men who looked like they could blend into any crowd and disappear just as easily. One of them nodded and gestured her toward an elevator already waiting, doors open like a held breath. No small talk, no explanations. That bothered her more than open hostility would have. The elevator ride was smooth and silent. No music, no mirrors, just polished steel walls and a steady ascent that made her ears pop faintly. When the doors opened, she found herself in a wide, minimalist space, less office than command center. Windows overlooked the city, sunlight spilling across concrete floors. Everything was deliberate, sparse, controlled. Nix Valenti stood near the windows. She was dressed simply now, dark trousers, a fitted shirt, no jacket. The bandages beneath were invisible, but Rhea could see the stiffness in her posture, the way she favored one side. Healing, but not healed. Nix turned as Rhea entered. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Up close, Nix looked different from how Rhea remembered her. Less distant, more solid, alive in a way that felt earned rather than assumed. Her gaze was sharp, but not predatory, appraising without stripping. Rhea broke the silence first. "You asked to see me." Nix inclined her head slightly. "I did." She gestured toward a chair. Rhea did not take it. Nix noticed, said nothing. "I won't take much of your time," Nix said. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying authority without effort. "I wanted to thank you. Properly." Rhea folded her arms loosely, grounding herself. "You're welcome. That's not why I'm here, though." Nix studied her with renewed interest. "No? You don't invite someone to a place like this just to say thank you." A pause. Then Nix smiled, briefly, almost imperceptibly. "Fair." She reached into her pocket and placed an envelope on the table between them. Thick, heavy, deliberate. "Compensation," Nix said, "for your intervention and for the risk you didn't know you were taking." Rhea didn't look at the envelope. "I don't accept payment for emergency care," she said. "It's my job." Nix's eyes flicked to her hands. Clean now, no blood beneath the nails. "You were off duty," Nix replied. "I was human," Rhea said. Silence stretched again, tighter this time. Nix pushed the envelope a fraction closer. Then consider it insurance. Protection. My world noticed you. That alone creates exposure. Rhea felt a chill run up her spine. Not fear exactly. Recognition. I didn't ask to be noticed, she said. No, Nix agreed. But you were. Rhea finally met her gaze fully. I don't want protection from you. That landed harder than a threat would have. Nix straightened slightly. You don't understand what refusing means. I understand exactly what it means, Rhea said. Her voice didn't waver. It means I don't want money that comes with strings I can't see, and I don't want safety that depends on your goodwill. Nix searched her face for something. Greed, fear, ambition. Found none. You saved my life, Nix said quietly. Yes. And you won't let me repay you. No. The word hung between them, final and unadorned. Nix stepped closer, not into Rhea's space, but near enough that the air felt different. People usually want something. I know, Rhea said. That's why I'm saying no. Another pause. Longer now. Finally, Nix stepped back. As you wish, she said. She pushed the envelope away, not toward herself, just aside. There will be no retaliation, Nix continued. No pressure, no expectation. You'll leave here and return to your life. Rhea nodded once. That's all I wanted. She turned to go. At the door, Nix spoke again. You treated me like I mattered, not like a name. Rhea stopped, but didn't turn around. That's how patients work, she said. Then she left. Nix remained where she was long after the door closed. Refusal was rare. Refusal without fear was rarer. And refusal without leverage? That unsettled her more than any enemy ever had. Corvin Hale did not believe in coincidence. He believed in patterns, in pressure, in the quiet mathematics of cause and effect. People didn't stumble into power or danger by accident. Not really. They were nudged, directed, or ignored until they became inconvenient. Rhea Calder was inconvenient. He reviewed her file in a windowless room that smelled faintly of ozone and polished metal. The information was sparse by design: employment history, address, routine. No debts worth mentioning, no addictions, no affiliations, a clean life. Those were always the messiest to manage. She said no, Corvin murmured, more to himself than to the man standing near the door. Yes, the man replied, didn't even open the envelope. Corvin smiled, soft and patient. That's not ethics. That's pride. He closed the file. Keep eyes on her. Quietly. No orders were written. None needed to be. Rhea noticed the first sign 2 days later. Her apartment door was closed when she came home, but not right. The deadbolt sat a fraction off where it should have been, the scratch beneath it new. Inside, nothing was missing. Her laptop sat where she'd left it. The jar of loose change on the dresser was untouched, but her closet had been opened, her coats shifted, her work bag moved. Someone had been careful enough to put everything back, careful enough to want her to know. Rhea stood in the center of the room for a long moment, keys still in her hand. Her heartbeat was steady, but something colder threaded through her chest. This wasn't a burglary. It was a conversation. She checked her windows. Locked. Bathroom cabinet. Undisturbed. No listening devices she could spot without tearing the place apart. She sat on the edge of her bed and let herself feel it. Just for a moment. Then she exhaled and went to shower. Fear, she knew, grew teeth when you fed it. The hospital changes came next. Her schedule shifted without warning. Nights became split shifts. Her supervisor stopped making eye contact. A colleague mentioned, too casually, that her name had come up in a weird meeting. No accusations, no explanations, just pressure. Rhea asked for clarification, got none. She adapted, took the shifts, did her job. But she started varying her routes home, stopped wearing headphones, learned the rhythm of unfamiliar footsteps behind her. Across the city, Nix noticed the changes too late. She felt them as subtle disruptions, reports arriving slower, conversations rerouted through Corvin instead of directly to her. It wasn't mutiny, not yet. It was positioning. When she finally connected the pattern, irritation flared sharp and immediate. You told me there would be no pressure, Nix said, standing across from Corvin in her office. Corvin spread his hands mildly. And there hasn't been. Not from you. Nix's eyes narrowed. Explain. She's already exposed, he said. Whether we like it or not, I'm containing fallout. By destabilizing her life? By reminding her the world noticed her, Corvin replied evenly. You know how this works. Nix turned away, jaw tight. Distance was safety. That had been the rule. She had kept it, for Ria's sake as much as her own. But distance, she realized now, did not mean control. Stop, Nix said. Corvin inclined his head. Of course. He meant it the way predators meant patience. Nix dismissed him and stared out over the city, unease settling deeper than she liked. Loose ends didn't frighten her. What frightened her was the sense that one of them was tightening itself, quietly, deliberately, around someone who had never agreed to play the game at all. Corvin Ria vanished on a Tuesday. Not dramatically, not with a struggle that drew attention or a scream that lingered in the air. She clocked out of the hospital just before dawn, nodded to a security guard she'd seen 100 times, and walked into the thin, gray morning like she always did. She never made it home. By noon, her phone went unanswered. By evening, her supervisor assumed she'd called in sick without reporting it properly. By the next morning, concern sharpened into something colder. Routine broke first. Ria was not careless. She texted when she was late. She showed up even when exhausted, even when angry, even when afraid. Her absence had weight because it was unnatural. A wellness check was requested by a coworker who knew her habits too well to ignore the silence. The apartment was empty. No signs of forced entry, no blood, no broken furniture. Her bag was gone. Her coat missing. Toothbrush still damp in the bathroom cup. Bed untouched. The door had been locked. The city recorded it as an adult missing person case with no indicators of foul play, the kind that slipped easily into backlog, into paperwork, into statistical invisibility. But Nix felt it the moment she heard. The report didn't come directly. It surfaced through layers, an offhand comment, a delayed response, a gap where routine data should have been. Nix had trained herself to hear those absences. Silence was never empty. She read the name once. Ria called her. Her jaw tightened. Nix summoned Corvin immediately. He arrived unhurried, concern already arranged across his face. You heard. I did, Nix said. Explain. Corvin spread his hands. She's been under observation for her own safety. That's all. Nix's gaze sharpened. Observation does not include disappearance. It does when rival factions start asking questions, Corvin replied smoothly. She became a liability the moment you intervened personally. Nix stepped closer, the space between them tightening like a drawn wire. I told you to stop. And I did, Corvin said. You said no pressure. You didn't say no contingency. Nix stared at him, something dangerous flickering behind her composure. Where is she? Corvin met her gaze without flinching. Safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one you need, he said. For now. Nix dismissed him before her control fractured. When the door closed, she exhaled slowly, pain still ghosting beneath healed skin. Distance was no longer protection. It was ignorance. She activated channels she hadn't touched in years. The internal search began quietly. No formal orders, no visible panic. Names were checked, safe houses reviewed, transport logs audited. Nothing surfaced cleanly. Too clean. That was when Nix knew Corvin was lying by omission. Ria woke to artificial light. It was soft, indirect, designed not to disorient. That alone unsettled her. She lay still for several seconds, cataloging sensation the way she'd learned to do in emergencies. No restraints, no immediate pain beyond a dull ache at the base of her skull. Her clothes had been changed, comfortable, neutral, a room without windows, but not a cell. Bed, chair, table, control without cruelty. The door opened quietly. Corvin Hale stepped in, as if he belonged there. Good morning, he said. I hope you slept. Ria sat up slowly, eyes never leaving his face. Where am I? Somewhere secure, he replied. Somewhere you won't be hurt. You drugged me. A mild sedative, Corvin said calmly. You were becoming unpredictable. I was going to work, Ria snapped. Exactly. He pulled out a chair and sat across from her, folding his hands. You don't understand the position you're in. I understand kidnapping, Rhea said. Her voice was steady, but her pulse thudded hard beneath it. Corvin smiled faintly. If I wanted you gone, you'd be gone. This is protection. From what? From people who won't be as patient as I am. Rhea studied him then, not as a victim, but as a medic reading symptoms. His calm was rehearsed, his kindness conditional. You're using me, she said. Yes, Corvin replied easily, but not the way you think. He stood. Rest. You'll be more cooperative once you accept reality. The door closed behind him with a soft, final click. Rhea exhaled shakily, fear finally breaking through discipline. This wasn't chaos. It was design. And somewhere beyond these walls, she knew, someone powerful had noticed she was missing. Whether that was salvation or a different kind of danger, she didn't yet know.